Today we're going to try something different. In fact, this is the first video that I actually used artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about the person. In fact, this is the reason why I'm using artificial intelligence, because I need to generate pictures. It's not going to do justice if I just talk about the person in a bike ride. Today we're going to talk about a Korean named Moonsoon Duke. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but he is one of the legends or heroes that I think we should talk about. Before we begin, I'd just like to post a little disclaimer. I am not a historian. There could be some inaccuracies in what I'm saying. If there are any historians out there, feel free to correct me in the comments. The reason why we're talking about this person is because he is an accidental explorer. And of course, this is the explorer vlog. So it's not just places that I like to show you. I like to also show you the stories of some previous explorers in the past. Moonsoon Duke was a local fisherman. Actually, he's also a fish vendor. He came from Luzon. Now keep in mind, Korea was not known as Korea. It was known as the Luzon dynasty. So when they set sail, they were supposed to catch fish, but there was a storm. Unfortunately, they were shipwrecked in a place called the Ryukyu Kingdom. I'm not sure if I pronounced that one right. Ryukyu Kingdom. In case Ryukyu is hard to pronounce, just call it the Okinawan Islands. And as you may have noticed, it's from Japan. So when they stayed in that island, they have to stay for a good 8 months there. They were fed, they were given medical attention if need be, because there was an agreement between the Joseon dynasty and the Ryukyu Kingdom. Any shipwrecked sailors between the two regions, well, let's just say the place where the shipwrecked sailors are in will be well taken care of. So they stayed there for a good 8 months and they were prepared to go back home. And one way to get back home is to go through China. However, when they were headed towards China, disaster struck. Another storm came in and they drifted way down to the south, and they got stuck in an island called Luzon. Luzon is the name given by Chinese to the island called Luzon. That's the largest island in the Philippines. This became a concern because once he was in the Philippines, he doesn't know the language and no one can understand him. However, this did not prevent him from learning anything. He was able to learn the Ilocano language. It's a dialect somewhere in the northern part of the Philippines. He was able to understand the customs, even the way people prepare their food. In the Philippines, it's actually the men that prepares the food rather than the women. The kitchens are far away from the house with a good reason for it. They were trying to prevent fires. He also noticed a lot of churches in the area. Churches that seemed like to be castles, especially at that time. Fortunately, I can at least show you what some of them may look like because they still stand up to this day. When this was happening to him, the locals are not exactly friendly. I'm not sure if they were mean because there were lots of piracy happening in the area. To be specific, the South China Sea. So they were a little suspicious. But this did not stop him from learning the language. In order to learn any language, you have to communicate. And of course, that means you have to be friendly. He didn't just communicate, he also took down notes. Some words that he may have wrote may still exist, and the word for manok is the word chicken. Speaking of chicken, he was also interested in cockfighting, or at least he noted that Filipinos love cockfighting. It is a popular sport even up to now. Now keep in mind, he wasn't just sightseeing and learning the language. He was making a living. He was selling tobacco, sometimes rum, and sometimes he was weaving some fibers in order to make twine. And making off a living on the land is not an easy task, especially if you're also learning the language. Now, of course, there could be some locals that was also friendly with him. But he has to make a living because there was no diplomatic agreement between the Philippines and the Joseon dynasty. So he really had to toil. This is what he probably may have seen when he was here in the Philippines. Now, keep in mind, this is in Intramuros. A better place or a more accurate representation might be in Vigan, where they still have houses that almost look olden, just like the times before. So usually you're going to see the first floor made out of brick, mortar, and of course stone. Well, the top floor or second floor is made out of wood. And of course, somewhere along the second floor you'll see some terraces, just like a Spanish style architecture. He may have heard of this type of architecture before but haven't seen one. This may have felt like as if he was in a different world. Besides the Spanish style houses, you will also see different types of lampposts. Try to imagine this place without electricity. Sometimes you're going to see a dirt road, sometimes it's cobbled. However, the churches are a different matter because it really looks like castles. Some of these houses will still look the same even up to this day. You might see something like this in a province. Now keep in mind, this is a bustling city. I am aware that some areas way back in the 1800s, it will not look like this. Some of my ancestors actually live in huts, so it's not always this manicured. However, even so, let's pretend you are paying a visit in a city like this and you're someone from the 18th century. Try to imagine that you're a fish vendor and then you suddenly walk into a city like this and it's going to be almost breathtaking. You're also going to see different types of technologies. Those lamps that you see there will actually be powered by gas. Right now, it's powered by electricity. This is what some cities looks like in the Philippines back in the day. So instead of me describing it to you, just have a look. It is still awe-inspiring even up to this day. And let's not forget the mode of transportation. Back then, you can pay someone to be your taxi. When I say taxis, I'm not talking about the mechanized vehicles. Taxi back then are actually horse-drawn carriages. We know it today as the kalesa. However, I need to ask you to add a little imagination when watching this. There are no electrical wires back in the day. The signage are probably in Spanish, not in English. It is a possibility that the roads were not as paved as this, but the idea is trying to see what our hero may have been seeing in the past. Just take it in slowly. Let's not forget our hero. We'll get back to him. After saving up a little money, he decided to go back to Korea. Now, I forgot what he wrote in his annals, but he referred to the Governor General as the king. It is, of course, correct. After all, if you're the Governor General back then, you're actually equivalent to a president. But although you're a leader, you're not exactly a king. So he climbed a ship and set sail for Guam. And he was able to learn even more details of the West. It is believed that he may know 3 languages. One is Ilocano, one is Ryukyu, and one is probably Spanish. After all, he was able to communicate with that governor general. And almost forgot, let's not forget that he knows how to speak Korean. That might be a total of 4 languages. Sorry, my mistake. And from Guam, he was able to return back to Korea. I'm sorry, I think back then Korea was known as the Joseon Dynasty. Now, I did say before that he is a hero, like the caption of or the title of this video, because this is not the end of his story. This is not just a story about King being shipwrecked in the Philippines. We now need to talk about other shipwrecks. In fact, there was a shipwreck in the Jeju Island. The group of survivors in that shipwreck cannot speak with the local Korean people. No one knows who they were, and they certainly were not Chinese. The reason they know they were not Chinese is when they were sent to China, the Chinese government acknowledged that they were definitely not Chinese. So they were stuck in Jeju Island. That's part of Korea, by the way. After some time, these drifters were staying in the Jeju Island for a good 9 years. When some authorities came to them, they realized Munsun Duke may know who these guys are. And when they introduced him to the drifters, he realized right away that they were Filipinos. When he spoke in Ilocano, one of the drifters actually said, "I feel I can finally go home." And that concludes the story of our explorer for today. I got a little inspired by his adventures. Who knows, your greatest adventure might be simply lying in one of your inconveniences.